Deafrowe with Deafrowe TV, and I'm back again with another review. And this week, to continue the trilogy series of Pulse, I am reviewing Pulse 2 from 2008, called Pulse 2 Afterlife. But before I get started on this review, please remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see when I post Pulse 3, which will be the final of the trilogy coming out next week. So let's get started, shall we, on Pulse 2 2018, starring Georgina Rylance as Michelle, Jamie Bamber, if you recognize him from Battlestar Galactica. He plays the main character of Steven. You got Bodie Bliss playing Marta, Lee Garlington playing Aunt Carmen, and Carly Scott Collins playing Justine, the little girl in this movie. And then you also see this. You see this character at the very beginning of this movie, as you can see here. The man all dressed in red here is Todd. I'm gonna say this last name completely wrong. Gibenhan. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize, but that's the guy's name. Now, unlike the first Pulse movie, this is written and directed by Joel Sosan, whereas the original Pulse was directed and written by completely different people. This is written directed by the same guy, and it's really not. It's kind of following up on the first Pulse, like following some different people and about what's going on during this whole ordeal. And it starts off with this guy here in red. He's trying to get to a certain place, and he's just kind of walking around with this red garb on, red glasses, and everything else, trying to keep the signal out or his way. It seems to work. Like he comes across a couple of people that are disintegrating. I think catch a couple right here. It's kind of cool looking. Yeah, as you can see here, like one tries to step out in front of him, but the signal can't do anything to him because he's completely decked out in red, obviously. So he kind of knows what he's doing. Anyway, we cut to the scene with Georgina Rylance playing Michelle here, and she's wandering around her apartment, and it looks like somebody has disintegrated in the vicinity of where she is. Now, at first, you think that there's just something going on, and she needs to like get out of there or whatever. But then you realize, see, and this is why this movie's not going to get a very high score. The story is great. I like the story, and I like the way it goes and the whole 9 yards. But this right here, for example, this scene right here, as you can see, you can clearly tell that was a green screen. And they overly use it way too much in this movie, in my opinion. Like I said, the story's great. I love the horror aspects of this movie, and I like the storytelling of where it goes. And what you come to find out is like you're basically seeing from her point of view of being one of the ghosts that has been engulfed in this signal, and that's kind of how they're playing off the whole green screen thing. Is I guess to make her look out of place, but it just comes off looking cheap, really. But anyway, yeah, you can see she's going around town like checking things out, and she can't figure out why nobody's listening to her and all this stuff. Come to find out she's dead, and so that's when you meet Aunt Carmen here, played by Lee Garlington, and you figure out that she's dead as well, and her husband has pretty much taped himself up in a room to keep her away because her signal was trying to get after him. And they see that that she's not sure what to do. They're acting like the other ones are the ones that have something wrong with them. And then you finally get to see Jamie Bamber playing Steven here. He showed up at this apartment of his ex-wife, which is the ghost that's wandering around that we're following. And he's trying to figure out whether she's dead or if both her and his daughter are dead. Because he ends up finding all the ashes in the apartment, and this is his ex-wife because they are divorced. And that's kind of the whole reason that she was depressed and was looking online and all this stuff, and it goes to explain that too. She was looking online at all this, and then she kind of got drawn into it, and then that's how the ex-wife, his soul is sucked or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, they show you like this whole thing where she like cleans up the apartment, everything's cleaned up and all this stuff, and she's really just imagining it because cut to another scene and see like this right here, you can tell this is a green screen. It just looks so odd. So yeah, you cut to another scene and everything's trashed again, like she never did anything. Anyway, the mother, the ex-wife or whatever, is obsessed with finding her daughter because she thinks her daughter's dead, or she just wants to get to her daughter, and she can't seem to find her daughter. So yeah. Anyway, the husband, who is still alive, Stephen here, he finds the daughter wandering around the streets and picks her up. And it takes her off. Well, then the ghost, the ex-wife ghost, Michelle, she's freaking out because she sees them driving off and she can't do much about it. And that's when she finally realizes she's a ghost. She kind of understands now, like, where her place is. And that's when shit gets really weird. So then, Stephen and Justine, they make their way to this cabin in the woods. And there's not a lot of Wi-Fi, and they're kind of hunkering down out there in the cabin. And Steven's asking him like, "Hey, what happened to your mother?" And she tries to explain like, "Mommy just wanted me, I was scared of mommy, but she wanted me to hug her and all this stuff." And then she went to hug her, and then as she was hugging her, the mom was actually thinking about taking the kid's life as well. It was holding like the scissors up in her hand and was going to stab her, commit suicide together pretty much. But then she disintegrated in the kid's hands before she had the chance to do that. As you can see here, see if I can get a good shot of it right here. So yeah, she's bringing the scissors up and Fiston's trying to stab her, but then she starts to disintegrate and the scissors fall and the girl runs away. And she's telling this to Steven, but then so, and that's when the ghost is, or Michelle's starting to figure out what her powers are and that kind of thing. It's green screen stuff. This is you green screen the inside of a cabin. I'm not sure exactly why. I mean, it's not like you couldn't find a cabin to rent to film this. I'm not sure. Just odd things like this that just don't make a lot of sense. And then, of course, that's the uncle covered himself in blood because it's red. He's hiding from Uncle Aunt Carmen. And then he finally comes out, and Aunt Carmen just like grabs a little bit of soul out of his mouth and eats it up. Anyway, they're back at the cabin or whatever, and this is Marta, played by Bodie Bliss, which is the reason Stephen divorced Michelle to begin with, is because he was having an affair with her. And so they're together in the cabin with the daughter, and all of a sudden the laptop boots up, and they're trying to figure out like what to do with this laptop, and they just want to. But this laptop has a bunch of emails from Michelle saying, "Help me, help me, help me." And Steven's not sure if Michelle's alive or dead, and how's he getting all these emails? And then all of a sudden, he gets another email saying, "Give me my daughter back." or give me back my daughter. And then like he realizes it's probably her ghost doing this on the other end. Anyway, so he picks up just curiosity killed the cat kind of thing. He decides to reply to the message because he doesn't believe it's her, and then ends up being her, of course. And then she shows up like behind him here because she's using she's part of the thing. And anyway, she makes her way through the Wi-Fi through the laptop and tries to get to her daughter in the cabin, but he grabs her and gets the hell out of there. But in the process, Marta gets stuck between them and Michelle here, and Michelle's ghost decides to take Marta's soul and does so. So now it's just Steven and Justine that are trying to get away now. And as they're riding out of the road, old dude in red, well, they call him the man in red in this movie. They really didn't have a name all that much. Anyway, he stops him and tells him, hey, you got to take me to the hardware store and get this specific chip that I need that could fix everything or mess everything up, make it worse. So he pretty much hijacks Steven and Justine for a few miles to get this stuff. Oops. And of course, you see Marta has turned into a gooey ash filled lump there. And she goes after one of the other guys at the camp. And of course, here's the dude in red, Todd Gimmelhan. And he's talking to him about, basically these things they're like in a void of some sort. And they can travel through the Wi Fi, the signal. And the ex wife is basically hell bent on getting them right now. Of course, this is the dude that walked in on Marta. That was when she was disintegrating and all this kind of stuff. And decided that he was gonna have his way with her, and all of a sudden she dies and disintegrates into the floor, and she's come after him now, as you can see here. Anyway, and then they get to the warehouse, and the old dude in red's like, "Hey, you gotta go get the chip. I'll stay in the vehicle with your daughter." He's like, "What the hell, dude? Why am I doing everything for you? Why can't you do it?" And so he finally gives it because he's got the gun. The man in red's got the gun. He goes in there, finds the chip finally, makes it out, and we cut back to Michelle for a little bit here, looking at the scissors again because she's remembering exactly what she was going to do to her daughter, and she kind of feels ashamed about it and all this out. And then she realizes she's not, alive anymore. Stabs herself a couple times to make sure she's really not just dreaming. Anyway, so they make it to a little gas station, and this man right here is at the gas pump. He finally decides to get out and help him pump gas. Pumps the gas, and then immediately sets himself on fire. If I can. Right here. So yeah, I mean they're finding like these little elements of things going on throughout trying to get away from the signal and find a place where it's safe to be. And they finally, Stephen and Justine are like, "Hey, we're gonna have to." Stephen's like, we're gonna have to find a place where the signal can't get to in order to get away from his ex-wife who's after his daughter." And then, they stop at this gas station, and apparently the guy is ate up with the stuff that they're talking about. As you see here, again with the. So you can see the black stuff, he's starting to turn to ash. So yeah, then he douses gas on himself after he fills their vehicle up and then lights himself on fire. As you can see there. And like I said, there's a lot of green screen usage in this movie, and I'm not sure why exactly. Yeah, but it is what it is. Anyway, they finally run out of gas at a certain point, and they decide to pull over and stay the night on the side of the road till somebody comes by. Well, he gotten some of that green tape from, I mean, the red tape from the gas station attendant, and the man in red had given him a bunch of red tape, said use this when you need to. And so that night, in order to keep the signal out of the truck, he puts the tape on all the windows, as you can see here. I imagine it took a lot more than just one roll of tape. That's the reason I said the man in red had to give him a whole bunch of that tape to do that. Anyway, at some point, all of a sudden, I mean, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't see what happens to the man in red in the second part, like what happens to him in the end. He basically gets his chip and then goes on his merry way. You don't hear nothing else about him. But for some reason, Justine has decided that she's missing her mom now and decides to go after her mom. It's like, no, 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 you gotta stay in the car. You gotta stay in the car. You know, whatever. It's just out of blue. All of a sudden, she wants mommy now. Whereas before, she had spent weeks on her, or a couple of days on her own in the city trying to get away from her mama's ghost, and all of a sudden, she wants mommy now again. So they see this van coming down the road, and he honks the horn to finally get it to stop, and they're going to try to make a run for the van because the bus is like tinted. All the windows are completely tinted red and everything. And so they open up the door to try to help them get in. They say, we're going to make a run for it. And so they try to make a run for it. And Justine doesn't quite make it because she sees her mama and wants to go to her mama. And then finally, Steven steps up and like gets in the way and tells her to get on the bus and just go. So basically, leaving her parentless, and she gets on the bus. Steven turned around to face down his ex-wife Michelle, telling her finally that he's sorry for what he did and all this other stuff. And she kind of like tries to kiss him and tell him bye, whatever. And then like he thinks he's in the clear, but then the other girlfriend shows up. He thinks he's in the clear or whatever, and I was like, "Oh look, look, thank you." He's like, I can live on or whatever, but not quite. Marta's here, and of course, it's like, oh, the green screen on this is crazy. It's just funny. So yeah, it's just taking his soul now. And that pretty much ends it with Justine pretty much ending up parentless at the end of the movie and getting on a bus to go to some weird camp area that doesn't have a signal. And that is the end of the movie. Not a great movie. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this is nowhere near the level of quality as the first movie, the Pulse movie. I would say it's a decent one as far as like ratings go on the critic list. Um, I want to put it around. I mean, 45 to 50% in the decent range. It's not heinous. It's not it's almost it's borderline bogus, but still decent because I like the story. The story is pretty damn good. I just wish they hadn't used so much green screen. I mean, there's a ton of green screen used in this, and you could just tell too. I mean, it's just, and I don't understand why they use so much unless they just had to do it on such a minimum budget and a short amount of time. That's the only thing I can think of because Pulse 3 it came out the same year as 2008. So I would have to believe that Pulse 2 and 3 were done since they were done in the same year. They pretty much rushed the entire thing. Let's see. Yeah, Pulse 3 is 2008 as well. And Pulse 3 is just called Pulse 3. And what's cool is Pulse 2 and 3 is written and directed by the same guy, Joel Sosa. So, like I said, the storyline's good. I like the story and how it goes, and I look forward to reviewing Pulse 3 coming up next week. But yeah, that's my review for this week's Pulse 2 Afterlife. Decent, not quite bogus, but getting there almost. And that's my review for Pulse 2 Afterlife, and that's me, Deafrowe, out.